Good evening. It's now 6:05 and the meeting will commence. Before we start, can I remind you of some of the housekeeping measures for the smooth running of the meeting that I know you have received in full by email. The meeting is to be recorded, following which it will be made available to the public via the internet, where it will be archived for future viewing. Can all members, except for myself, the Deputy Mayor, members of the Cabinet, group leaders to ensure that their cameras are switched off and turned off at all times unless invited to speak by myself or one of the leaders or the leader. Could you mute your microphones when not speaking in order to avoid any background noise or feedback when other participants are speaking? Any participants who remain unmuted while not speaking will be muted by a Democratic Services officer. Anyone wishing to speak, please indicate this via the chat or the hands up function, which can be accessed in the top right-hand corner of the Teams window. Could all members please note that the chat function is not to be considered as a formal part of the meeting and should mainly be used to indicate to myself that you wish to speak or when the voting if technical difficulties are experienced. If members experience technical difficulties, they should contact Democratic Services. Thank you. Councillor Johnson, can you please switch off your monitor?
With all respect,
I'm a
group leader. Thank you very much.
I do apologise, Councillor. Thank you. Right, can we move then to apologies for absence? I haven't received any. Councillor Johnson.
Madam Mayor, Councillor Hodges gives his apologies.
Thank you very much. Any other apologies? No, thank you. Can we hear the roll call of members, please?
Good evening, everybody. Can we start, please, with Councillor Julie Aviat?
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Vincent Bailey.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Rhiannon Birch.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Jonathan Bird.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Bronwyn Brooks.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Liz Burnett.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor George Carroll.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Christine Cave.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Janice Charles.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Millie Collins.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Jeff Cox.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Robert Crowley. Councillor Robert Crowley with us this evening.
Present, nothing to declare.
Thank you. Councillor Andrew R.T. Davis.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Pamela Drake.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Vince Driscoll.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Stuart Edwards.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Ben Gray.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Owen Griffiths.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Stephen Griffiths.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Tony Hampton.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Sally Hanks.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Hunter Jarvie.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Gwyn John.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Ian Johnson.
Presennol, I didn't be that again.
Councillor Gordon Kemp.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Peter King.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Kevin Marnie.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Catherine McCaffer.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Anne Moore.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Neil Moore.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Michael Morgan.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Jane Norman.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Rachel Nugent Finn.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Andrew Parker,
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Bob Penrose,
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Sandra Perks,
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Andrew Robertson,
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Leighton Rowlands,
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Ruba Sivaniana,
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor John Thomas,
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Neil Thomas,
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Steffan William,
Presennol a dim byd i'w ddatgan.
Councillor Margaret Wilkinson,
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Eddie Williams,
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Mark Wilson,
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Margarita Wright.
Present, nothing to declare.
Thank you. That completes the roll call. Diolch yn fawr.
Madam Mayor, are you with us?
I do apologise, I was still muted. Can we move on to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 21st of September?
Can I formally move, Madam Mayor?
Can we have a second?
And formally second, Madam Mayor.
The minutes are moved, thank you. And could I have the special meeting held on the 5th of October?
Can I formally move, Madam Mayor?
And formally second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, so they're accepted. Can we move on then to item number 4? To receive announcements from the leader, members of the Cabinet, Head of Paid Services and the Mayor.
Madam Mayor, the only comment that I have to make is in relation to COVID-19 and make a plea, as I normally do, as I did in Cabinet earlier today. The figures in the Vale Glamorgan are escalating, and basically what I'm asking people to do is to be careful, to take the precautions that are required. We are in something of a change, with some of the hospitality not being open and some of them not being able to sell alcohol, but clearly it's for a reason. In terms of the situation as COVID-19 within the Vale Glamorgan, we are now well over 200. I think it's 220 per 100,000 that I saw recently. It is not as high as some, maybe, but it is high enough when you consider that the threshold was 50. So basically what I'm asking people to do is to be careful, to take precautions, to make sure they wear a mask when they're outside, to keep 2 meters apart, to wash their hands, and if you can't wash your hands, use gel, but also not to go outside their bubble, and to take care, because if we don't, then clearly we might not have a Merry Christmas or a Happy Christmas at all. So basically what I'm saying, and what I've said at the beginning of every meeting in the last 6 months, is that this is serious. We are in the middle of a pandemic. We all need to take care. So I wish everybody that is capable of doing that. This is the last council before Christmas, and I hope that we can all have something of a reasonable Christmas together. But please remember to keep yourself safe, keep your family safe, and more particularly keep the community safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Any other announcements? I have a few. I'd like to take the opportunity to advise the duties I've been able to carry out because of the pandemic have been limited, obviously. But since our last meeting in September, on the 21st of October, I undertook a virtual tour of the recently refurbished Bella Vista Care Home in Vale, and I was extremely impressed with what they've done there. I only wish I could have gone in person. On the 8th of November, I represented the Vale of Glamorgan Atlantic Major Remembrance Sunday service, while my deputy attended the service held at the War Memorial in Barry. On the 11th of November, the Vale Council Armistice service was held in the Merchant Navy Memorial in the Civic Officers Forecourt. Although the numbers in attendance were limited and the service was held in adherence with the Welsh Government social distancing, it was a truly fitting service of remembrance and was videoed live on social media. And on the 19th of November, I attended a Reserve Forces and Cadets Association virtual annual general meeting, which again was a very, very strange, but it's the only way we can get things done at the moment safely. Thank you very much. We now move on to item 5, which is to consider a notice of motion submitted by Councillor Penrose and Councillor Marnie. Councillor Penrose, can I call on you, please, to put your motion forward?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I may, I'll read out the actual motion and then afterwards give a statement of why I'm submitting the motion. The motion is, I request the Vale of Glamorgan Council countermand the decision made by the Education Department to appropriate £2 million of Section 106 monies received from Taylor Wimpey in respect of the COG development allocated for education in the Sully ward, which they now plan to allocate to a new Ysgolderry School satellite building under the Welsh Government Band B schedule. I require this decision to be reversed as the Section 106 monies are for the education in Sully and should be allocated to the replacement or remodelling of Sully Primary School. Madam Mayor, do you need Councillor Marnie to second before I go on to a statement? Or?
Madam Mayor, you're on.
You could either, sorry?
Madam Mayor, Councillor Penrose can explain the purpose of his motion before Councillor Marnie seconds.
Yeah. Councillor Marnie I can speak now, or I can wait until the end of the debate.
No, Madam Mayor, I think Councillor Penrose has read his resolution, but now he has to speak to the motion.
Yes.
Right, thank you. The reason I placed this motion before Council this evening is because the actions proposed by the Education Department creates a precedent and flies in the face of the democratic process for both the residents and local elected members. At a virtual Teams meeting recently with the Section 106 manager and senior education managers, Councillor Marnie and myself were informed that £2 million of Sully Section 106 money for education were to be appropriated to finance a new remote location of Ysgolderry School, without any consultation with the two elected members. When queried by myself, I was told this action was permissible and did not require consultation or agreement with the local members, owing to delegated powers passed by the council some time ago. I find this situation totally unacceptable and can only assume Councillor Marnie and myself would not have been made aware of the proposed scheme had it not be that we had insisted on calling the Section 106 meeting. At this point, I would like to emphasise that neither Councillor Marnie or myself are opposed to the concept of a satellite educational facility for Ysgolderry, and that we both appreciate the excellent and sterling work undertaken by the school. Our objection is purely against the undiscussed acquisition of £2 million of the funds from Surrey Section 106 education monies. I would now like briefly to state the financial funding of this project for the benefit of all elected members who may not be aware. The total funds for the new proposed school amounts to £11 million, of which Welsh Government, under the 21st Century Band B schedule, will be funding £8.25 million, leaving a balance to the Vale of Glamorgan Council of £2.5 million, of which £2 million will be taken from Sully Section 106 money, which approximately is 75%. My point is Ysgolderry is a special educational needs school for the benefit of pupils throughout the Vale of Glamorgan and beyond, being utilised by other local authorities such as Cardiff, who pay direct to the council for their students to attend the school. Accordingly, the funding of any additions to the main school should be funded proportionally by all wards of the Vale of Glamorgan, as well as major contribution from central council funds, and certainly not fall upon a particular ward, as is definitely the case in this instance. I therefore call upon the elected members present to vote on this issue and to support my motion. Furthermore, Madam Mayor, I would like to request a recorded vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Marnie, do you want to second this?
Yes, of course I would second it. Am I able to say just a few words at this time, or should I get in the queue?
Councillor Marnie may speak at this stage if he chooses.
Okay, just to endorse single thing that Bob Penrose said there. I'm sure there's not a fair-minded person on this Teams call or whatever who would dispute that surely this is a county-wide asset. The fact that it's been proposed that it might be sited in the Sully and Cosmoston wards is irrelevant. It's not, won't necessarily go there, it could go anywhere. But we just say that wherever it's sited, in that particular community has to pick up the major tab of funding this. There are Sully residents who will go to this school, the fine work it does. But of course, it has to be proportionate to the rest of the Vale. And, you know, what we're being told here is £2 million out of our small budget that was to counter the effects of massive housing developments cited in our ward, and yet also a shortfall be made up by council reserve funds. So I mean, then again, the people of Sully will be picking up a second time as well as the £2 million. And I will close in mentioning here, I noticed much not nodding of heads, shaking of heads by several of the faces on screen here as Bob was relaying his stuff, as it was. Well, his recollections of the meeting that we asked for didn't even have the decency to come to us to tell us about this, but us watching them like hawks knew full well they'd be up to something, and showing us it was us who wheedled that out of them. And for you to be shaking your head at what he was relaying there is outrageous, to be honest with you. And I would urge every councillor to support this motion, because believe you me, and some of you will know from previous things, this is the sort of behaviour that's coming to a ward near you in the future. Maybe not on this issue, but on other issues. And I'm sure many of you have already experienced it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll take my hand down. I am somewhat surprised that Councillor Penrose has brought this motion to Council. One, because he was now complaining about the Section 106 procedure that he agreed when he was a Cabinet member for Education. Secondly, because he knows that he also agreed the Band B programme, and also knows, more importantly, what didn't figure in Band B and would be more likely as a result to figure in Band C. At that time, which was a time when he he was the Cabinet member and lead for education investment, Sully School was not to be included in Band B and would be more likely to figure within Band C. This means that the intention of remodelling of the school to include new blocks to replace the temporary buildings and increase its resources available would be after 2024. Thirdly, because Councillor Penrose knows that the Band B schemes have been agreed by Welsh Government, been profiled and could not be easily changed. 4, because Sully School, although currently full, is not full of catchment children. There were only 33 pupils this year from the catchment area for the school in nursery section, which has a capacity of 51 pupils. It's also interesting to note that in 2019 there were 25 children from the catchment area, and in 2018 there were only 41 children from the catchment area, so it's not been full of catchment children for some years. 5, because Sully School is capable of taking all the predicted catchment children until 2025, so it would not be overcrowded. This is particularly relevant and is one reason, albeit not the only reason, why Sully Primary does not figure in the Band B schemes. 6th point is, in any event, I would contend that the councillors have brought this motion prematurely to council. Prematurely because currently no decision has been made on the use of section 106 for phase 1 of Cog Road site. It's also important to remember that phase 2 has yet to be built, if it is actually built. So no section 106 money is currently available for that site, but I guess it would be available should it be used for band C scheme, should the band C scheme be approved. Seventh point I'd like to make is the legal definition of the use of section 106 for educational purposes is, and I'll quote, to provide or enhance educational facilities in schools serving the Surrey catchment for the nursery, primary and secondary provision. End of quote. It does not say exclusively spent in the Surrey and Lavernock ward. But this brings me to a moot point anyway in the argument. Children in Surrey can attend any school through parental choice. They can attend any denominational school and can attend any Welsh medium school. Most importantly, children in the Surrey and Lavernock ward can attend additional learning needs schools such as Ysgol y Derry. Now, I don't need to tell everybody this, but we all know that the ALN provision has expanded considerably and there's now a need for Ysgol y Derry too, which I would remind you has been agreed to be a Band B school. So regrettably, it appears to me that this moment is not being supported by this motion. This motion therefore appears perverse to me because it means that, let me put this, let's remember at this stage no decision has been made on what sections 106 monies will be spent on, hence my comment about the motion being premature. So therefore, it's perverse to me because it means that the Section 106 education contribution for Cog Road development could actually be spent on Ysgol y Derry too, which is, funnily enough, within the Surrey and Lavernock ward, as the councillors seem to require it to be spent. For these reasons, I will not be supporting this motion and I would urge everyone to reject it. It is premature, it is inaccurate, and I will not be supporting it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. Does anyone else wish to speak on this?
Madam Mayor, Councillor Bird had his hand up. Madam Mayor, Councillor Bird was next.
Thank you. Councillor Bird, would you like to speak on this?
Yes, thank you. I'm fully aware that what has been done within the guidelines, as it was a change that was made during my time as Cabinet Member to the 106 regulations. I fully understand that. I'm a little disappointed, shall I say, that no communication with the ward members was made. And I ask that if this were to go ahead, is there, how would this affect Band C? Would the £2 million that may be taken now from Surrey be reapportioned from other funds from other areas of the Vale of Glamorgan? Could I have an answer on that, please?
Leader, would you like to reply?
I don't think this is, it's an issue of replying. I know Councillor Burnett will be coming in. I've spoken. I only had a chance to speak once. But as everybody knows, Section 106 is funded across all wards.
Thank you. Councillor George Carroll.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and I rise to speak in favour of the motion proposed by Councillors Penrose and Marnie. In my mind, this goes to the crux of an important issue, which is the principle of Section 106 monies. Now, I appreciate the assurances that the leader has given to all members this evening that everything has been done in accordance with the correct procedure and within the rules and the principle of Section 106 monies in a technical sense. But I think that if we're looking at this from a perspective of the real purpose of Section 106 monies, which is to compensate communities and existing residents for the impacts that developments may have on the area, particularly on public services. I think it's absolutely crucial that things are not just within the letter of the rules, but also within the spirit too. And I think that Councillors Penrose and Marnie made a very important point when they highlighted the fact that this is not just an issue for Surrey, even though that's the community that's being discussed in the case of this motion, but the fact that the same could end up happening to other communities across the Vale. I know, for example, that in my ward of Landock, were Section 106 monies to be made available for development as they have in the past, I want to see them spent in my community because that's the reason that Section 106 monies were brought forward. Now, from a personal point of view, I want to see investment in Ysgolor. I think that every single member would agree with that. It's important that happens. But I think that the source of those monies, while perhaps Surrey, it would be right for a contribution to come from Surrey, I think that the members representing Surrey and indeed the community in Surrey would absolutely say that their monies, the Section 106 monies earmarked and provided from that community should not go wholly on this project. Monies should be found elsewhere within the education budget to provide for it. So that's an important principle. I think that it's absolutely right that we make sure that Section 106 monies are spent on the communities rather than for county-wide projects. That's why I speak in favour of the motion. That's why I will be supporting the motion this evening, and I would urge all other members to do likewise.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Can I call Councillor Peter King, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. All I'd like to contribute is that some wards, including my own, are fully developed and populated, and there is no foreseeable opportunity for any Section 106 funding to contribute in the way that Councillor Penrose suggests that all wards would share. But at the same time as my ward being fully developed, I'm looking for the way that things might benefit some of its residents and or the more perhaps specifically in this case, the children of some of those residents. And I'm confident that the children of the residents of every single ward, some children, will benefit hugely from this special school annex. So it's just sharing that, it is that sharing and contributing bit I wanted to flag up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor King. Anybody else wishes to speak? I have no indications on the screen.
Your Councillor Johnson, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Johnson, would you like to speak? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to pick up on points made by both Councillor Carroll and Councillor King there. The discussion so far has been around Section 106 money. I'd like to actually flip the principle and the discussion on its head and say that the discussion here is about how we fund education which helps children from across the Vale. Now, on that basis and in that nature, and I can see the leader nodding, that is something that we all support. The question is where that money comes from and how it's appropriated. My concern here is that allocations being made from one specific part of the Vale and one specific ward's development in order to fund education provision for children across the Vale. I'm not happy with the motion as it's written because of the suggestion that that money should automatically be allocated to Surrey Primary School, which has already been mentioned is part of a later provision of education. But I am concerned about the appropriation of Section 106 money from one ward, from one development that's going to finance education provision for children across the Vale. I feel that at the least there should be a consideration or reconsideration about, and I appreciate the leader's points that this is still early in this process, that the money and the funding for this should be found from a central pot because it's central provision, and should do the best they can to avoid it being drawn down from section 106, which we believe is, if not actually in written down, is certainly in the spirit of being used to support local provision and not central provision. I look forward to the conclusion of the arguments because I generally haven't decided how I want to vote on this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Johnson. Could I just have a moment to have a bit of clarity, please, from our monitoring officer?
Thank you. Yes, I just mentioned in the chat bar about seeing whether once the debate is concluded and Councillor Penrose had the opportunity to submit his right to reply, if it is to be a recorded vote, 6 members would need to support that. And I know a query has been raised about, well, surely all are recorded anyway, but it is an issue for the minutes. If it is a recorded vote, we would record each member's vote, whether it's for, against or abstained, just to clarify that point.
Thank you very much. I'm getting, I think Councillor Burnett wishes to speak next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As has already been said, no decision has been made on 2 counts in relation to this motion. Firstly, in relation to the specific proposal in relation to Ysgol satellite, as referred to by Councillor Penrose, and secondly, in relation to the specific details relating to the use of Section 106 funding. Dealing with the first issue, the actual proposal of the satellite is currently under consultation until the end of December. And if Cabinet subsequently decides to progress the proposal, there will be a formal planning application and further consultation. It should be noted that on the 22nd of January 2018, Councillor Penrose's report to Cabinet on 21st Century Schools Band B specifically mentioned the need for flexibility in relation to Section 106 funding. On the 16th of July 2018, as both he and as Councillor Bird has mentioned, Cabinet agreed a deviation to the adopted Section 106 protocol for the allocation of Section 106 contributions to support 21st Century Schools Band B, and gave delegated powers to appropriate officers in consultation with the relevant Cabinet members, one of whom was Councillor Penrose. Members will be aware that capital budget proposals each year detail the 21st Century Schools programme and sources of funding, and these, if you trace back, are adjusted each year dependent upon the situation in that year. In a Cabinet report on the 7th of January 2019 on the 21st Century Schools programme Band B, Councillor Penrose sought Cabinet permission to amend Band B. Among other changes, the programme included expansion of Ysgol. It clearly states the need for the local authority contribution of 2.75 million, and he did not bother to ask where that would come from. Really? The expansion of Ysgol was also included in the Band B update to Cabinet on the 15th of July and in the proposed capital budget 18th of November 2019 under my tenure, but I'm not sure why it wasn't called into scrutiny or challenged in some way if that was the case. Turning to the second issue, the motion states that Section 106 funds should be used for education in Surrey and specifically for replacement or remodelling of Surrey Primary School within Band B of the 21st Century School programme. Again, this suggests that a formal decision has been made as to how funds are going to be allocated to deliver the Ysgol expansion. There has not. It is a matter that is being discussed, and it has been discussed between officers and the 2 Surrey ward members. I am at a loss why Councillor Penrose or Marnie for that matter has not raised the issue directly with me. Instead, they progress a motion that countermands a decision made when in fact no decision has been made on both counts. Despite this, I feel the need to clarify. Section 106 funds from that development are to provide or enhance educational facilities in schools serving the Surrey catchment area for nursery, primary and secondary children. Strangely, the proposed Ysgol satellite school is in the Surrey ward. The Section 106 funding from the development is for increased capacity at nursery, primary and secondary ages. It is to my understanding that Section 106 funding would not be available if there were no need to create additional places. This leads to another issue we must consider. Projected pupil numbers show that Sully Primary currently has sufficient capacity for reception intake from the catchment, including those from the development until at least 2025. Currently, a third of pupils at the school are from outside the catchment. This probably highlights the very reason why Sully Primary has never featured in the Council's Band B programme, despite Councillor Penrose leading the education portfolio previously when Band B was reported. The facts are inescapable. Two of the key components for 21st century schools is demonstrating value for money and prioritising need. Sully Primary School does not figure in the Council's Band B programme, and that programme is currently being planned and delivered with considerable success. Our preferred way forward is to provide an enhanced and expanded school within Band C of 21st century schools, using Section 106 monies as match funding for Welsh Government support. Section 106 funds from Cog Road can and will be used as match funding for such purposes. Much as we are successfully doing with Ysgol Bro Morgannwg, it is cost effective and more environmentally responsible. I understand there has been no objection to the proposed allocation of funding to Ysgol Bro Morgannwg or the proposed Centre for Learning and Wellbeing, and I'm at a loss as to why children with special needs are being singled out as not being worthy of funding. What does that say to any child or young person with special needs in Sully? In summary, we have no specific decisions that need we've made no specific decisions that need countermanding. The motion is premature. We will continue to plan for an upgraded and expanded Sully Primary School as part of Band C of the 21st Century Schools programme. We will continue planning to provide places across the Vale for children in their catchment schools.
Time is up, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bennett. Any other person wishes to speak on this? Councillor Penrose, would you like a right of reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to clarify several points. First of all, the leader made reference to the motion being premature. It was not premature in our eyes at the time when I submitted it, because a definite statement was made at the meeting with Councillor Mardy and myself that this was a decision made and that we had no right of reply, both of which subsequently been proven to be untrue. Secondly, when I was on Cabinet, and as Councillor Bennett correctly points out, additional funding was put into Band B for extension to Ysgol y Derry. At that time, and you can check the facts, that was for an extension on the existing site, the Penarth Learning Centre. No mention was made. The first mention I heard of any extension of Ysgol y Derry was when an application was made at the Glebe Fields in Surrey, along at the same time we were asking for a surgery and health centre. The other thing, the leader quotes correctly the terms of the Section 106, but I suggest that perhaps we should look at it closely and include the category for special educational needs. That is omitted. It's not clearly defined in the document. It does say, as quoted, for primary, nursery and secondary schooling, but there's not enough definition in that title. And as pointed out to me, could be challenged by Taylor Wimpey that the monies weren't going towards what they initially discussed. Finally, as far as Sully School is concerned, I think perhaps I will be asking the Cabinet member to explain to probably 10 families in Sully why they can't get their children into Sully School when she clearly states there are loads of spare places. There are spare places, not many, but it comes to a question of which years their availability. And I've got several families within 300 yards that cannot get their children access to the school. The other thing I would like to point out about Sully School, I did at the time as Cabinet member, but I did declare an interest, suggest that Sully School should go into Band B rather than a proposed Cosmoston Primary School, and was told by Education and Planning that they believed the Cosmerston development would go ahead first and the Section 106 money would be made available. I challenged that, but if you like, I was overruled on it. Sully School is a sound in its actual construction. Its layout is terrible. It has a hall that holds 100 children with a total roll of 420 pupils. It has terrapin classrooms, 6 of them, with no toilet facilities. And there are only 3 separate cubicles, toilets for 63 staff, I believe, on roll at the moment, and a staff room that holds 30. I've been arguing the point of this since 2012, and to be honest, you get absolutely nowhere. So I reject any saying that the school is totally fit for purpose, because it's not. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Penrose. Do we have a vote on this now, please? And could you please we have a recorded vote,
yes,
as requested.
We are. We've had 6 ask for a recorded vote.
So, Councillor Penrose, could you please reiterate what it is we're voting on for members to be clear?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I request the Vale Glamorgan Council countermand the decision made by Education Department to appropriate £2 million of Section 106 monies received from Taylor Wimpey in respect to COG development allocated for education in Sully Ward, which they have to allocate to a school satellite building under the Welsh Government Banby schedule. I require this decision to be reversed, as the Section 106 monies are for education in Sully and should be allocated to a replacement or remodelling of Sully Primary School.
Thank you very much, and we'll now have a recorded vote.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. If I call the names of all members present and ask you to say whether you are for the motion or abstain or against the motion, please. So we start with Councillor Julie Aviett.
Against.
Councillor Vincent Bailey.
For the motion.
Councillor Rhiannon Birch.
Against.
Councillor Jonathan Bird.
Abstain.
Councillor Bronwyn Brooks.
Against.
Councillor Liz Burnett.
Against.
Councillor George Carroll.
For.
Councillor Christine Cave.
For the motion.
Councillor Janice Charles.
For the motion.
Councillor Millie Collins.
Abstain.
Councillor Jeff Cox. Councillor Cox, can you hear me?
Abstain.
Councillor Robert Crowley.
For the motion.
Councillor Andrew R.T. Davis. Councillor Davis, can you hear me? One last go, Councillor Davis. Okay, I will try and come back. Councillor Pamela Drake.
Against the motion.
Councillor Vince Driscoll.
For the motion.
Councillor Stuart Edwards.
For the motion.
Councillor Ben Gray.
Against the motion.
Councillor Owen Griffiths.
Against the motion.
Councillor Stephen Griffiths.
For the motion.
Councillor Tony Hampton.
For the motion.
Councillor Sally Hanks.
Against the motion.
Councillor Hunter Jarvie.
Abstain.
Councillor Gwyn John.
Against the motion.
Councillor Ian Johnson.
Atal, abstain.
Councillor Gordon Kemp.
For the motion.
Councillor Peter King.
Against the motion.
Councillor Kevin Marney.
For the motion.
Councillor Catherine McCaffer.
Against the motion.
Councillor Anne Moore.
Against the motion.
Councillor Neil Moore.
Against the motion.
Councillor Michael Morgan.
For the motion.
Councillor Jane Norman.
Against the motion.
Councillor Rachel Nugent Finn.
For the motion.
Councillor Andrew Parker.
For the motion.
Councillor Bob Penrose.
For the motion.
Councillor Sandra Perks.
Against the motion.
Councillor Andrew Robertson.
For the motion.
Councillor Leighton Rowlands.
For the motion.
Councillor Ruba Sivanianam.
Against the motion.
Councillor John Thomas.
Against the motion.
Councillor Neil Thomas.
Against the motion.
Councillor Steffan William. Councillor William.
On myself.
Diolch, thank you. Councillor Margaret Wilkinson.
Against the motion.
Councillor Eddie Williams.
Against the motion.
Councillor Mark Wilson.
Against the motion.
Councillor Margarita Wright.
For the motion.
And I'll come back to Councillor Andrew R.T. Davis, if you can hear me, Councillor Davis.
Councillor Davis is having some difficulties with his internet connection. He has confirmed that he wishes to vote in favour of the motion.
Okay, thank you. I'm just checking to see if Councillor Davis is on the line.
With respect, I'm not sure if you could accept that. Otherwise, there's no point being here.
I'm just checking to see if he's actually on the call, Councillor Moore, at the moment. It's showing that he isn't actually on the call, so I'd have to turn to the monitoring officer and ask for a judgment on that.
Yes, we would only be able to take a vote from Councillor Andrew R.T. Davis if he voted in the chat bar, but otherwise, no, we wouldn't be able to take that vote.
Okay, I'd be grateful if somebody could check these figures, but the votes as they stand are 21 against, 18 in favour or 4 and 6 abstentions.
Yes, I have the same.
So 21 against, 18 for and 6 abstentions, which means the motion is lost. And it's perhaps worth pointing out that even if Andrew R.T. Davis had been on the call, the result would have stayed the same. Thank you, Madam Mayor, back to you.
Thank you very much indeed for that. We will now move on to item number 6, the report from the Managing Director. I think the leader will go on this.
Yes, Madam Mayor. This is report number 6. It's emergency powers, which are simply for noting. Formally move.
Thank you. Item 7.
Somebody second. I don't know if anybody's going to second.
Oh, sorry. Anybody second that?
Formally second, please.
Thank you, Councillor Burnett. Moving on to number 7.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I think Councillor King is taking this as his portfolio.
Thank you very much, Leader. Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is substantially a renewal of some existing areas and the introduction of some new areas that were identified during the summer period, and I'm asking you to support the proposals, please.
Thank you very much. Have we got a seconder for this?
Formally second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burnett.
Madam Mayor, I think Councillor Jones got his hand up.
Right, Councillor John, would you like to speak on this? Councillor, can you come in, please?
Madam Mayor, I was just seconding the proposition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor John.
Councillor Johnson's got his hand up.
Councillor Johnson. Councillor Johnson would like to come in, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not going to be speaking against the continuation of the alcohol PSPOs tonight. However, I do have some queries over the process for this and the way forward on some of these issues. Madam Mayor, yourself and the Cabinet Member will have seen that I have a question on this very matter later on today. I'm sure that much of the issues will be can be responded to at this point in time rather than later on. It appears to me that although this was is a standard 3-year rollover of the public space protection orders, that it should have been a more obvious and clear-cut 2-stage process rather than a 1-stage process, which we've had. I feel that council members should have perhaps have been contacted in advance to be asked if there are areas which they would like to nominate as being relevant to the alcohol public space protection orders, and which then could have been included within the consultation process, or at least discussed as to why they are not included. I am obviously a councillor for a town centre area in Barry. There are a number of areas within my ward which I feel should have been at least discussed, because they are areas which I have regular discussions with the police regarding use of alcohol in those areas. To wit, there are changes that have taken place within the Barry area within the last couple of years. These include the growth of the waterfront area. I regularly find myself in discussion with local PSCSOs regarding people drinking in out-of-sight alcoves, or also along the waterfront area itself. There are new parks, etc., also being created within that area. The cemetery approach gardens, which is just north of my wards. Obviously, the entrance to Mythodon Cemetery is a new green spaced area that didn't exist at the time of the 2017 PSPO regulations, and should also be considered. And the issue has also been raised with me regarding Central Park, King Square and Halton Road in its broader sense. It doesn't make sense to me that I can't have a drink on Barry Island, but I can, if I wanted to, have a drink on Barry Waterfront, as long as I stopped by the time I reached Broad Street and Gladstone Gardens. It doesn't seem to me that there's a sensible approach being taken to this, and I'm interested to hear as to how the Cabinet Member wishes to go forward with the numerous suggestions that have been put forward as part of the consultation. What's the purpose of having a consultation in which we suggest ideas, but there is no practical resolution for those? So I look forward. I won't be opposing the regulations tonight, of course. I'd like to hear from the Cabinet Member how he intends to pursue the suggestions that have been made and what role there is within these PSPOs if they're not going to be renewed again for another 3 years. Thank you much, Madam Mayor, and I look forward to hearing comments from the Cabinet Member.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor King.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Yeah, you make some fair points, and I keep an open mind to looking at other areas. I think, in fairness, there was a public consultation period, and you and no other particular councillors chipped in at that point. But I would also say that we need the support of the police with these things, and we had police evidence in certain areas. So to some measure, we were responding to a need that arose in a rather strange summer. And therefore we felt we needed to get these introduced as speedily as possible. I'm more than happy to look forward to addressing other areas where there's good evidential reasons. The only other thing I would very, very delicately correct you, because my officers have corrected me, and that is that it is not about banning drinking. It's about banning drinking in association with antisocial behaviour. And that's where we need the police help. If there's nothing necessarily wrong with somebody enjoying a can of lager on a hot summer's day, or a couple sharing a bottle of wine. It's what they then do, having consumed it, and having the power to say to them, "I'm sorry, you have to pour that away or throw it away. You cannot drink here." And it's just providing our enforcement guys with the power that otherwise they would not have. So that's just a subtle difference that people have reminded me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor King. I think Councillor Johnson would like to make some clarification on a point.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. First of all, I mean, I appreciate the comments from Councillor King. I was being flippant with regards to actually where you can use. The whole point is that there is therefore no protection or no allowance for the police to do that in these areas I've noted in the waterfront, Cemetery Approach Gardens, Central Park, King Square. Just to he suggested that I hadn't participated in this process. In fact, my responses are included within the paperwork that I am in front of Council tonight. And in fact, there is a one councillor response in here that is from me, Councillor King. Thank you very much. I know it's from me. I can see it in Welsh.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dean Johnson. Right, and we move on then to item 9, which Councillor Moore or the leaders going to take on.
Madam Mayor, can we just accept that Council has read the recommendations before us, please, so that the recommendations is that we note the outcome of the consultation period, that the Council agrees the renewal of the existing space orders for the further 3 years, and the Council agrees to create new orders for 6 locations detailed within the report for the 3-year period. But I would echo the point that Councillor King's made, is that if anybody's got any other areas which they put forward, and we can get the police to accept as well, then we can use and add to those powers. And in fact, it said that in the report which came to Cabinet. Can we? We just need to have formal recommendation from Council. I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. I will formally second if nobody else has. Is there anybody?
Thank you very much.
The point is, anybody
against it? Yes, just to clarify, as long as there's no dissent, we can take that as agreed. So, Madam Mayor, I don't think there's any dissent. So, yeah, just note that as agreed, and we can move on to the next item on the agenda.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, just very, very briefly, it's just a clarification. In the document Appendix C, there is a misspelling of one of the streets. I just thought that I should flag that up. It says CBS Llawhaden on the Gibbons Down estate. It should be Clos Llawhaden, CLOS. And I'm sure that I can see one of the local members nodding agreement that that correction needs to be included. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Johnson.
As amended, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Moving on.
Next item is item 8, which is to seek council approval for an amendment to the wording. It's a part of the Constitution, Madam Mayor. Amendment to the wording of the Constitution for the Joint Consultative Forum and the associated areas of the Council Constitution. The amendments apply to paragraphs, I should say, 5.3 and 6.3 of the Constitution for the Joint Consultative Forum, and to 13.6Q and 3 of the Council's Constitution, which is the responsibility for Council functions, committee terms of reference. And this is in relation to the eligibility of membership's criteria for the election of chairman of the forum and the number of directorate consultative groups to be included. Basically, it's for paragraph 5.3 of the Joint Consultative Forum Constitution and 13.16Q3 of the Council's Constitution, the wording avail of Glamorgan councillor and by all elected members. In other words, what it's saying is the chairperson should be the elected member, and those voting are those elected councillors. And then paragraph 6.3, that the number of directorates indicated be changed from 5 to 4. And if anyone wants to see the detail there on paragraph 2.3 and 2.4 in the report, can I formally move the recommendations, which are 1 to 4 on page 2 of the report, which I don't intend to read out if I can help it.
And formally second.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Leader. Moving on.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, could we just for the purpose of the minute, if ask if there's no dissent, we'll take that as agreed.
Okay. Is there any dissent? If not, we will take it as agreed.
Yeah, Councillor Thomas has had his. Oh, he's taken it down.
I'm sorry. I beg your
Councillor
pardon?
Thomas had his hand raised. That's okay. He's taken it down.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In that case, we'll go to agenda item 9A, which is a report that came to Cabinet today, and we used the emergency procedure to bring it forward. It's a housekeeping report. Approval is sought to confirm the re-adoption of the Council Tax Reduction National Scheme for 21-22. There are actually two sets of regulations governing the scheme, one with which is established a single national framework scheme which would be imposed on the Council that failed to adopt its own scheme, and the second one of which sets out the national requirements that each building authority had to satisfy, and also enabled additional areas of local discretion that authorities might wish to implement. Basically, the Welsh authorities have until the 31st of January each year to adopt the scheme, exercising any of the discretions permitted under prescribed requirement regulations. This requires a decision by full council, and hence the reason is here tonight. If the authority fails to adopt the council tax reduction scheme by that date, the default scheme would apply. So basically today at Cabinet we took the report and we recommended to Council that indeed we did agree the four recommendations before you. In other words, we continue with the schemes that we currently have, and that they be finally adopted. So that the council tax schemes, I'll say it just for clarity, the council tax reduction schemes and prescribed requirements, Wales regulations, the prescribed requirements regulations, and the council tax reduction scheme, prescribed requirements and default scheme, Wales Amendment Regulations 2014, be adopted. That any amendments to the regulations made by Welsh Government are reflected in the scheme, because the Welsh Government can indeed change them if they wish. 3, that the national scheme be adopted with the following discretions. So in other words, we do have the discretions which will continue year on year, is that the Council should continue to allow extended payments up to a maximum of 4 weeks, that the Council should continue to disregard war widow and war disablement pensions in assessing income for council tax reduction, that the Council should continue to allow backdated reductions for a period of up to 26 weeks. Within the terms of the report itself, it gives you the understanding and the information required of what we're being asked to approve, but basically it's something which we've been carrying out for some considerable years, and I cannot formally move.
Formally second, Madam Mayor.
Right, do we have any dissensions on this? If not, I accept that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The next items are items 10, which are to inform Council of the use of urgency decision procedure under Article 1414 of the Constitution. They are listed as 10A, 10B and 10C within the agenda, and I formally move that they be noted as the use of emergency decisions has been taken. Can I
formally second.
Any dissensions from this? Then accepted as noted. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Right, and we're moving on then to section item 11, which is the Councillor's questions. The first question is for the from Councillor Nugent-Finn to the Cabinet Member for Leisure, Arts and Culture. Councillor Nugent-Finn, would you like to read out your question, please?
Certainly. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Can you just please provide an update on the NERS scheme, including the current waiting list provisions, contract for our service users, the current referral process for the scheme, and any anticipated date of return, if you have any, please?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Nugent-Flynn. This really is a matter we have very little control over, as we have to follow the instructions. given to us by Public Health Wales. At present, Public Health Wales, who administer the scheme nationally, haven't given us any permission to restart the exercise referral scheme. There isn't an official waiting list, as PHW have put the service on hold for the time being.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And the next question from the member of Neighbourhood.
Madam Mayor, part of the constitution is that the questions are not read out, but the answers are.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Councillor Nugent Finn again, to the member of Neighbourhood Services and Transport.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor. Sorry, may I come back as a supplementary to the first question?
Certainly.
Thank you very much, Councillor MacArthur. Yeah, I appreciate the situation, but there is still referrals being made from GP referrals, from GP surgery, so that there is people waiting. And my concern is that, you know, it was an excellent response to this particular situation recently, which again is much appreciated, but it talks specifically about existing clients. I'm aware that there's a lot of people waiting and they are still being referred, and of course the response is not particularly great when they are accessing these services because they don't exist, but there's nothing holding them, and perhaps these are the more vulnerable people, and you know, they should perhaps be a priority, because I believe there is some service provision going out to the existing people on the scheme. So what are we doing to look after our people who are waiting?
Right. Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Nugent Finn. I appreciate what you're saying. From our point of view, you understand that as a local authority, we have little control over what GPs choose to refer people to. From our point of view, we have been in contact with GPs to tell them that they can't refer to the service at the moment. And in relation to how many people you might suggest are on that waiting list, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about that. And I can get back to you in the future. But we have made contact to say, please stop referring people, because currently we can't manage this service because Public Health Wales won't let us.
Thank you, Councillor MacArthur. Next question from Councillor Nugent Finn for the member of Neighbourhood Services and Transport.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Nugent Finn. I am delighted to advise you that yes, there is. The path at the eastern side of Barry Island is now scheduled for some repairs because they are overdue for that footpath, and together with repairs necessary to the Barry Island eastern shelter.
Thank you very much, Councillor King. Councillor Nugent Finn, do you wish to come back on this?
No, that's great. Thank you very much, Councillor King, for the update. It's much needed. So yes, timely. Thank you very much.
The next question is from Councillor Nugent Finn, the Cabinet Member for Education and Regeneration.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Councillor Nugent Finn. We've recently received our approval from DWP to proceed as an employer for our initial bid. This has taken longer than anticipated and has delayed our recruitment and selection process. We have 72 placements in the council across all 4 directorates that we will be advertising with DWP in the next week, with the aim of interviewing and starting successful individuals in the new year. We've also started to gather expressions of interest for further placements across the council and anticipating submitting a further bid in the new year. The council has also applied to DWP to act as a gateway on behalf of other employers in the Vale, and staff from Education and Regeneration have already begun the process of contacting employers in readiness for this. There's limited information to present until this process is complete, and at least 30 kickstart placements have been identified and approved to proceed until DWP is granted.
Thank you, Councillor Burnett. And moving on. Next question, again from Councillor Nugent Finn to Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood Services and Transport.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Nugent Finn. Question about electronic scooters. it is currently illegal to ride an electric scooter anywhere other than on private land. I think it's quite similar to some off-road motorcycles, dare I say. And any illegal riding of electric scooters should be dealt with by the police. It is, however, not illegal to sell electric scooters, and retailers will be aware of the law regarding their being ridden on the public highway. And we are not looking to introduce any e-scooter hire schemes in the Vale of Glamorgan because it would be in direct competition with our e-bikes.
That's a shame.
Thank you, Councillor King. Moving on. Next question is from Councillor Morgan to Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood Services and Transport.
Again, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor Morgan. I think it's fair to reply that this well-tagged study for the M4 junction 34 to the A48 has been developed over a number of years, with input in particular from the technical review group for the project, which includes the local community councils in the area. Additional work as part of the current well-tagged Stage 2 Plus study undertaken following feedback from the review group and the previous consultation means there are now 5 revised infrastructure options in the latest report: due minimum, east and west new alignment, and 2 online options where the existing road is upgraded. The report is currently being consulted upon, and we are really grateful for the high number of responses and suggestions. The current consultation closes on the 23rd of December 2020, and we would welcome further comments on how people view this scheme in relation to the larger climate change agenda. Briefings on the current consultation have been given to the local community councils, the Youth Council, the Over 50s Forum, as well as the City Region, and views on the project vary significantly. The climate emergency and the effects of COVID-19 have been considered as part of the revised report, and this is detailed in pages 7 onwards of the outline business case. However, as mentioned, the main part of this report was originally produced before the climate emergency was declared and before the onset of COVID-19. It is also important to note that no decision has been taken by the Cabinet on this latest study or any preferred route. Rather, a decision was taken to fully consult on the draft report and the options provided. The climate emergency and the COVID-19 pandemic will be paramount considerations when the results of the consultation are presented to Cabinet in the new year. At this point, the future of the scheme will be decided upon. For information, in terms of the railway, there are parallel plans for a new station and transport interchange at junction 34 of the M4. And this study has recently been reported to the Cabinet and scrutinised by the Environmental and Regeneration Scrutiny Committee, and is recognised as a possible regional project as part of the City Region scheme.
Thank you, Councillor King. I understand that Councillor Morgan wishes to have a supplementary.
Yes, thank you, Councillor King, for that full reply. My supplementary question is this. I mean, these proposals have been hanging over the heads in my ward, particularly the people of Pendoilen, for over 3 years. Many lives are on hold with the certainty of whether homes will be demolished or blighted by these proposals. Can you confirm a timescale on the publication of the report on this consultation and the subsequent steps should this matter proceed further? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Indeed, I can resonate a little with this because where I live, my house is blighted by the Dinas Powys bypass and was when I bought it in 1993. So I do understand a little bit about this. What I can assure you is that we are moving ahead, and I am expecting a report to bring a report to Cabinet in the first quarter of next year. And presumably in the build up to that, we will be keeping everybody informed.
Thank you, Councillor King. Councillor Nugent-Finn, can you please switch your video camera off? Thank you. Right, moving on. The next question is from Councillor Charles to the Cabinet Member for Housing and Building Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Janice Charles, Councillor. The Council has completed 31 new council homes to date. By the 31st of March 2022, the Council will have completed a further 101 homes and will be on site building a future 146 as part of this ambitious Council House Development Programme.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson.
Supplementary, please.
Councillor Charles, supplementary, yes.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. My understanding is that there are currently 6,022 people on a housing list. Does the Cabinet Member believe that we are doing enough to address the shortfall in council housing? And will they write to Jane Hutt AM and the Welsh Government Minister to urge them to support the Vale in its endeavours to build more affordable homes for our residents?
Councillor Charles, I will get you a written answer, but because there are certain things in that question, but we have to find the land, we have to find the landlords that will sell the land to us. Now, we have a very close relationship with all the housing associations, and they build for us as well. And definitely we will be trying to build more homes. There is lots on our waiting list, I agree, and I am for everybody to have a decent home. But I will get some figures for you and I will send them in writing to you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Moving on, from Councillor Charles, the Cabinet Member for Legal, Regulatory and Planning Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Charles. This year, shared regulatory services have received just under 300 service requests in the Vale of Glamorgan area in relation to housing disrepair and tenancy issues. These have been responded to by giving advice to both tenants and landlords and signposting them to our website, which has been updated to include links to Welsh Government information to assist those worried about eviction and those who are struggling to pay rent. We also work closely with Rent Smart Wales, the licensing authority for Wales, to ensure that landlords meet the statutory obligations and investigate referrals from Rent Smart Wales in relation to property condition and provide information so that they can make assessments as to whether landlords and agents are fit and proper to hold a licence to manage properties. SRS also work closely with the Housing Solutions team, carrying out pre-tenancy checks of properties to ensure that some of the most vulnerable in the private rented sector have access to accommodation which is safe and free from serious hazards. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Good to hear. No supplementary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Charles. The next one is from Councillor Charles to the Leader.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Charles. Unfortunately, this is a statement, not a question, so I can't answer something. It's not a question, so I'm terribly sorry, but I can't answer a question unless you ask one. So I have nothing to say. Thank you very much, and I therefore have a supplementary because there's nothing to supplement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leader. Next question is from Councillor Carroll to the Leader.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Carroll. As part of the monitoring of the sickness levels across the Council, the 2020-21 Q2 sickness report was discussed at a recent Cabinet on the 16th of November and at the latest Corporate Performance and Resources Scrutiny Committee held on the 18th of November. You were present at that scrutiny meeting, and so you should be aware of the answers as they are all contained in the report that you considered.
Thank you, Leader.
Supplementary, please, Madam Mayor.
Supplementary.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and I thank the leader for his answer. I'm sure that other members who weren't present at that meeting may have appreciated it if the leader had provided the figures as requested. For those who weren't present, I would simply make a point of saying that the figures are down substantially on last year, and I suggest that that is a...
Councillor Carroll, the leader wishes to speak a moment.
Can you please give me a question?
Sorry?
Do you have a supplementary question?
I do have a question, Leader. The question is this: as you will be aware, figures for that quarter were down substantially on last year, which, given the fact that we are in the biggest public health crisis in a century, is welcome but somewhat unexpected. So my question to you is, one, why do you think this was the case? And secondly, will you provide an update on work that's being done to ensure that in subsequent years we can seek to maintain this very welcome reduction?
Thank you for the speech and supplementary question. Again, as I indicated, you are aware of the figures, and indeed every member of this council is aware of the figures, because every member of this council receives a copy of the cabinet papers, and indeed, if they so wish, they should also get a copy of the corporate performance meetings. For clarity, the following FTE sickness days lost for each quarter since 2019-20 and 2021 were: in 2019-20, the Q1 figures was 2.66 full-time equivalents. This year, this quarter was 1.69. For Q2 last year, they were 4.74. For this year, they were 3.40. I can't give you a comparison for Q3 and Q4 because we haven't got their reports yet. Although it was noted that the absence figures have decreased, the decrease was largely due to the ongoing global pandemic. And it was important to note that the Council and other organisations had not dealt with this situation like this before, and therefore there was little comparison data based on previous year's results. I hope that the pandemic will soon be over, but again I will say that it will only be over if everybody plays their part. There will continue to be close monitoring of the sickness rates, and they will continue, and there will be reports to the Cabinet, and there will be reports to the Scrutiny Committee. You're asking whether or not I can maintain the lower levels of sickness. Yes, I hope we can, but you have to accept that we are in a difficult and different situation this year, and therefore I am not expecting those figures to continue on the same level. I would hope that we can continue to do what we do for our staff. We give them all the advice and help through our HR. We have the organisation to whom people can refer themselves, and many do. So basically, you have the report. You have in the report it had the reasons that we're in a pandemic. Clearly, people are working from home. Maybe some of the reasons that if you're not feeling too well today, but you're working remotely, as many are, you can say, well, I don't feel very well this morning, but I'm going to work this afternoon, and I will work this evening, and I will catch up my hours. So we just don't know where we currently are at the moment. Things are lower. They're bound to be lower. I hope they will continue to stay lower as we go forward, but I can't guarantee it, and nor could anybody else. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leader. And the next question is from Councillor Johnson to Cabinet Member for Leisure, Arts and Culture.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Johnson, for your question. Engagement and feedback from the consultation was good, with over 300 responses submitted. From the 24th of March to mid-April, work was underway in analysing these responses. However, progress was understandably halted by the Council's efforts in relation to COVID-19. Although officers are continuing to work in relation to our responses to COVID-19, the Council is now in a better position to complete this work. I anticipate this will be completed early in the new year, with subsequent publication of the consultation report.
Thank you, Councillor McCaffer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor McCaffer. As one of the local members, would it be possible to have a briefing on that whenever something's been able to be brought forward?
I will certainly let you know about that, Councillor Johnson. Yes, thank you. Thank you for your interest.
Again, from Councillor Johnson to Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood Services and Transport. Councillor King, you are still muted.
Too many buttons, I apologise. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. The Council is due to receive the draft WellTag Stage 2 Plus report, Improvements to Transport and Dinas Powys report from the consultants undertaking the work on the project this month. Local members are due to be briefed on the draft report next week, 15th of December, and it is anticipated the review group for the project will meet prior to the Christmas break, and depending upon their technical views, a report presented to Cabinet in the first quarter of 2021. In terms of active travel, over the last few years, we've been trying to progress an active travel route from Biglis roundabout Barry to Dinas Powys. Unfortunately, this was not funded in the last financial year, and we've been advised by Welsh Government that we need to look in more detail at the route from Dinas Powys to the Mary Harrier. And we're planning to do that in the next few months with a view to seeking funding again.
Supplementary,
Thank you
Madam Mayor.
very much, Councillor King.
Supplementary, Madam Mayor.
Supplementary.
Thank you very much for that response, Councillor King. I'm particularly concerned with the Biglis to Dinas Powys active travel route. I understand discussions ongoing with Welsh Government officers. I was wondering whether you have had an opportunity to meet, or in your diary to meet, with the Deputy Minister of Welsh Government responsible for this, Lee Waters. As a former Barry resident, I know he has an interest in these matters and perhaps has some influence you might be able to bring to bear.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. It's uncanny you should say that, because yes, I have. I've been invited to an active travel city region group and therefore have gained access to Lee Waters and indeed Ken Skates, because it's fairly clear that most of us are desperately trying to make certain breakthroughs, and I would have to say one of the bodies that is a blooming nuisance has been Network Rail. And having a bit of help and support from the Assembly could be invaluable. So yes, thank you, and I look forward to another time when I can tell you we've made some further progress.
Thank you, Councillor King. The next question again from Councillor Johnson to the Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood Services and Transport.
Again, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. The Cabinet minute on this matter, C346, is self-explanatory, and it advised that car parking charges will be implemented in Wyndham Street Car Park Barry and Cowbridge Town Hall Car Park on the 1st of April 2021, unless the COVID-19 restrictions were still in place, in which case charges would not be implemented until after the local restrictions had been lifted.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a supplementary question on that. And we are in uncertain times, and while that statement sounds like it's quite an obvious statement, what coronavirus and pandemic lockdown looks like is actually quite difficult to understand. I'm just wondering, for clarification, when would you be making a decision as to what that might look like, whether to be to delay implementation or not, because anything could happen in these next couple of months, and I think that some certainty is required. So I'm wondering if there's a cut-off point or a clarification that's required at some point between now and the start of the new financial year.
You make an interesting point, and I'm with you on that. I think everybody's trying to make some certainty, particularly for the sake of businesses and commerce. I think though, having promised that we won't do anything until the 1st of April, that's the best. That's 3.5 months certainty. I'm moderately confident that as we near that date, we will be much more alert to how things are developing, possibly with the rollout of vaccine, possibly with infection figures. I don't know, but I'm moderately confident that you and I will be both watching and waiting, and I hope that before then we can give another period of certainty.
Thank you very much, Councillor King. And again from Councillor Johnson, the Cabinet Member for Legal, Regulatory and Planning Services.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. I think, to be honest, we've already covered this in the earlier discussion about the public space protection orders. So I think that's been answered fully, unless you've got a supplementary.
I do have a supplementary, Madam Mayor and Councillor Williams, which really is that I was invited earlier by Councillor King to bring forward suggestions and discussions, and I'm wondering if I should be talking to Councillor King or Councillor Williams with regards to this, seeing as they've both been allocated the same job of responding to this matter today in full council. I don't know if somebody wants to get back to the later points to who exactly is responsible for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You need to worry about that. The fact is that, as you can understand, there's an overlap in cabinet portfolios. Community safety is one issue, and when it starts going into alcohol, antisocial behaviour, then we will obviously work together and resolve that. You've had your opportunity to raise other places, and we'll obviously take that on board. So hopefully that will answer your question further.
Thank you very much, Councillor Williams. And next question is Councillor Collins, the Cabinet Member for Legal, Regulatory and Planning Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Collins. The Plan Register is used to publish information, correspondence relevant to the application, subject to data protection provisions such as redacting personal information. But any specific requests should be directed to the Freedom of Information Unit. The online record has now been updated with most recent documents and correspondence with consultees and the applicant agent. This is always done as quickly as possible after the receipt of information and having regard to all relevant legislation, and finally having regard to the current more challenging conditions created by the pandemic. The online plan register for all applications does not contain neighbour representations as a matter of course, given that there is no statutory requirement to do so, and this involves a significant redaction workload in many cases. However, these representations can be redacted and uploaded on request. The file will continue to be kept up to date going forward, subject to the continuing more difficult conditions.
Thank you, Councillor Williams.
Thank you. Supplementary, Mayor.
Councillor Williams. Councillor Collins.
Thank you. It is since the Welsh Government has been thinking about the need for an environmental impact assessment for the incinerator. What steps will you now be taking to push the Minister to make a decision?
As you're aware, there's quite a lot of difficulty in coming up to a decision, as it's dated some time. We are currently obtaining council advice to progress forward. There are some issues on the site related to the previous application in 2015. The conditions more, I'll be clear about that. It's the conditions, not the actual development itself, which have just been resolved by the planning officers, and that's been worked through at the moment. We are taking further council advice, and once we get that back, then we can move forward with it.
Thank you, Councillor Williams.
Thank you. Can I just ask that you keep me updated, please?
It's not a question you need to ask, because, as you're well aware, there's interest to the whole council, and this is covered on many of our meetings and reports, and so therefore I do struggle with the fact that we don't have the opportunity to have these answer these questions prior to the council meeting, but there we are. That's probably me not reading the reports.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. And that brings us to the end of Councillors' questions. There aren't any questions from members of the public. I have nothing under items 1 or part 1 or part 2. So on that note, I'll say thank you very much. good night and have a good Christmas, as best you can. Thank you very much.
Happy Christmas, everyone.
Happy Christmas to you all.
Happy Christmas. Good
Happy
night.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Good night.
Bye.
Peace.